planning a natural birth, then you want to hire the right care provider, because the wrong one can undermine your confidence, sabotage your natural birth, and push unnecessary medical interventions, including inductions and C-sections, not to mention force you to have vaginal exams. They could even traumatize you to teach you a lesson. In fact, there's a term for that called obstetric violence. It is the reason why a lot of moms are complaining and not getting anywhere, and I call them category 5s. Hi, my name is Carly Bonderud, and this is the Empowered Birth series, where I go deep into everything that you need to know to plan and get your empowered, true natural birth experience. And today we are going into the 20 natural birth traps. If you've been following along with this series, then you know that a natural birth trap is what undermines your confidence, sabotages your physiological process, and leads to unnecessary medical interventions. And in this masterclass, we are going into trap number 11, unsupportive doctors and midwives. Now, I'm going to have a caveat here, is that normally midwives are pretty much the guardians of physiological birth. They don't mean to have to practice this way. I can't guarantee that there's not a category 5 or 2 in the midwifery practice. I mean, they're all human, right? Everybody's a human first and an expert second. But what I do want you to understand about natural birth traps is that basically it's like this. You think that you're going to have a natural birth and you're planning and you think you're doing everything right. You've hired a care provider who says they support natural birth, and you've read all the books and you're taking the classes and you're preparing your body. You may even be practicing mindset techniques or hypnobirthing. You're basically confident. But what you don't realize is that if you don't have the right care provider, they can end up screwing up your birth process. And this is why I have the 5 pillars of empowered birth. If you want to learn more, you can go and check out my book, Your Empowered Birth. But before we get started, I just want to let you know what the natural birth trap is. Basically, you go in, you think you're doing everything right, you're following the advice that is typical in mainstream, and then in the end you get a C-section. And you're like, what happened? I don't understand. I was doing everything right. Why did my body fail me? And the truth is that maybe your body didn't fail after all. Maybe you were set up to fail. This is not to scare you. This is to help you be aware of what we're really dealing with. Because the reality of the situation is that the medical system is not set up to facilitate physiological birth. That's not to say that there are not doctors out there and midwives who do support the physiological process. Their hands just tend to be tied, or they are so far and few between in their hospital system that not a lot of people get access to them. So if you don't know who these people are and you don't have their voice to basically counterbalance everything else that you see on social media and from your own doctor, you may not recognize if you have a category 5. But I am in the business of being able to pull off masks. When my clients come to me, they are usually coming to me because their care provider said something to them that caused them to feel a lot of anxiety. They wanted to have a natural birth, and for whatever reason, their care provider said that they could risk out, or that they have a high risk status, or that they're not allowed to birth the way they want. In fact, one of my clients actually had come to me and she said, my OB keeps telling me that because I have a high body mass index, I'm going to definitely get gestational diabetes and I'm going to have another C-section. And then another one had come to me and she said, my OB basically thinks that I need to know nothing about my pregnancy and they won't give me a straight answer. And then there's other moms that come to me and they say, my midwife says that I have to induce because if I don't induce, I'm going to risk out of her care. And there's others that basically get the same idea of being told that they have to do something and they're not getting full informed consent. This is where a lot of the mainstream advice out there becomes a problem because we have a dichotomy within our society. The natural birth community is saying one thing and the medical community is saying another thing, and we don't have that balance. But here at Empowering Moms, I am the bridge that is going to help you basically go through and decide where you're going to go from here. We aim for our true natural birth because physiological birth is less likely to cause complications. It is the way your body is intending to birth. If you don't schedule a C-section, you don't schedule an induction, and you don't do any medical intervention, your body is going to unfold in the birth process the way it is meant to be. But if you interfere with that process without actually needing to call that in, that is when complications develop. And unfortunately, in our medical system, we have those category 5s basically running things. If you stay to the end of this video, you're going to know everything you need to know right now about category 5. I will also tell you about additional resources that you need to go deeper. So before we get started into the actual masterclass, I want to let you know this is a masterclass. This is not just a fluff video where I'm going to tell you a bunch of scary statistics about OBs or how to avoid it or how to get a different midwife. In fact, what I'm going to do is a little bit different than what you're probably used to when it comes to watching videos on YouTube. So basically, I have a philosophy, and that is that information is free and I only charge for access to me. I will tell you more about that as we go through about what our Empowered Birth movement is doing and why everything is basically free. And we only really charge for support. So if you do want direct support, there is an intake form. If you check the transcript of this video, you will see the intake form as one of the links that I've recommended. The thing about that, though, is I don't take everyone on that comes to me. Often I redirect them to self-study if they're not at a level where I could really help them, because I want to make sure that those 15-minute laser coaching calls that we do are going to go to the moms who need it most. The moms that may be dealing with category 5 care providers and they need that extra boost of confidence. The moms who may still have limiting beliefs around their ability to give birth and they need to work through those fears and traumas. Those are the moms that we typically support, whereas if you're looking for just easy birth education, all of our courses, all of our books, everything is accessible. So even if you wanted to go and get a copy of Your Empowered Birth, and I do highly suggest that you do just for your own benefit, because it's nice to be able to go back and read a book whenever you want to. I do also have that book on YouTube. So you can go and check the playlist and then you can go and check out that book. That will give you more about natural birth traps as well, because there's a whole chapter on that, as well as the chapter after that, why birth goes wrong. So the thing is, though, is that to take advantage of these master classes, you're going to want to watch this at least 3 times. The first time you're going to go through it, you're getting the overview. You know what's in it. You can also just download the transcript, and then that will basically be the same thing. But if you're more of an auditory and visual learner, then you're going to appreciate having video. I myself happen to be visual, so I can't just watch a video. I need to actually see words, which is why I've created the transcript. I want you to have an empowered birth, whether you can work with me or not, and whatever your learning style is. So I've done my best to incorporate within these master classes all the levels of your learning style. I have also recognized that we don't always have time to sit down and watch a deep dive master class. So if that is you, if you only have 5 to 10 minutes, then I'm going to encourage you right now to go and download the transcript, because that's going to give you the overview of what you need. The next thing that you need to understand is, with the rule of 3 is what I call it, you basically need to go through this 3 times to really get the magic, especially if you're doing the do-it-yourself path. If you're doing self-study, you're going to have more of a baseline, so that you might only need to watch this as like an extra piece of information to add to your education. These are basically supplementary videos that you can go through in the self-study path and be like, okay, I already have the empowered birth method. Now how do I apply it in this area? So these deep dive master classes are for you if you are just new coming into birth education and you want to know about a certain topic. You go through our list and you find the topic that's right for you. You can find more resources if you go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. That will give you the overview. And we also have freebie guides, in which case I've basically taken what I was teaching in the natural birth traps, and I'm creating a deep dive masterclass from that. So if you want the full list, you just go to my website or check the transcript, and you're going to get the link in there. Because again, information is free. I only charge for access to me. So you watch the first time, you get the overview, or you read the transcript, you've got the overview. The next time you go through it, though, you have the baseline. You have the idea. You're like, oh, I already know this, so I can come back and I can watch again. This is also helpful if you've already done the self-study path, because you have that baseline of information and you're like, okay, I've done the work. So going through and watching just once, I'm going to have the idea, and now I know how to apply it to the empowered birth method so that I can basically get what I want and I don't hire this category 5 care provider, in this case, this video. The next thing, though, is to get that aha moment. Once you're like, I didn't see this piece before, now I have that, now I can implement it. The third time you go through, that is when integration happens. Everything happens in threes, including trimesters. When you are basically going through your trimesters, you are recognizing in the beginning, you're first-time mom, or you're going through this pregnancy and you're kind of working through your hormones in the first 3 months. And then you're like, oh, I can hang with this. Second trimester is easier, right? But there's still a little bit of challenges because now you're growing a baby. Now you're actually in this phase of your belly getting bigger. And then by the third trimester, you're ready to have that baby, right? But you're still integrating that process. Everything that you learned from the beginning of your pregnancy is now coming up at the end. And this is why one of the tips that I suggest is that you watch this video 3 times. The other thing you need to understand to get the most out of it is, as I said, I've basically applied this so that your learning style is covered. If you are somebody who wants to know the why of why you're watching this so that you can stay motivated, I'm going to give enough to you so that you can stay motivated. If you're somebody who likes to know the deep dive, nitty-gritty details, well, then you're going to love the transcripts. Because basically what I teach inside of context in the video, I will go deeper inside the transcripts. You can follow those links. If you're somebody who also likes to know how to do something, I'm going to tell you how to use the empowered birth method. So you will get those steps. And finally, if you want to be like, okay, but what about this scenario? What about this? Then I encourage you to also reach out to the team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Or if you're not really pressed for time and this is just for your own curiosity, maybe you're a birth worker, you can also just comment in the video itself. If you comment, you're also going to boost the algorithm, because here at Empowering Moms, I am committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you work with me or not. My commitment to you is that if you go through all of the resources at Empowering Moms, you will have a more beautiful and empowered experience. You're going to come to your birth from a place of power instead of fear, and you're also going to create a ripple effect. So all I ask is that you pay it forward, because a drop in the ocean creates ripples, many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. So now that I've told you how to get the most out of this masterclass, I'm also going to add that you're going to want to take notes so that you can basically come back and have that idea of how you're going to apply this for your own method. Because again, information is free. You can take this, you can use it, you can implement it, you can get your empowered birth without ever having to go the self-study route and without ever having to get on a call with me. Information is free. I only charge for access to me. So basically the structure of how I'm going to be doing this is simple. I'm going to tell you a story of the category 5s and what I basically see and how this is a problem and how it basically derails a mom's birth plan and how to reclaim that power. I'm also then going to tell you how this is a trap. So I'm going to tell you how it undermines your confidence. I'm going to tell you how they push you into medical interventions. I'm going to tell you how they sabotage your natural birth. I'm going to also tell you a little bit in this video about the birth advocacy side of things, because you're going to need some birth advocacy secrets if you hire a care provider who's going to actually support your true natural birth. And I'm going to give you some additional resources that you're going to want to check out as well. Then I'm going to go into the empowered birth method and how to apply that through the 5-pillar system. And finally, I will also tell you about the 3 paths to getting the empowered birth method if you want to go deeper than what is in this video, because you cannot get everything from one video. And I want to make sure that wherever you are at in your budget or your time constraints, that empowered birth is here for you and you avoid these category 5s. Then I will end with the recap. I will tell you a little bit more about what's coming up next, and then you're free to go, okay? And you can rewatch the video. You can pass this on to a friend. You can pass this on in the mom groups, and you can basically go and get your empowered birth and hire the right care provider. Okay. So now that you know what's in this video, let's just dive right into the story here. So when I was a first-time mom, I did not really trust the medical system. I had already seen through my upbringing that if you go to the doctor tells you what to do and you just follow the doctor. I hate needles. I do not really like to have to take medicine because it also makes me feel kind of groggy and it doesn't work very well with my stomach. I always felt worse taking the cure than when I was just doing preventative steps and following my own body. So I was very doctor resistant. And when I got pregnant, everybody around me was like, well, now you have no choice. You have to go to the doctor. You'll have to take those blood tests and you'll have to do all of those other things that you've been avoiding. And good luck to you. So they basically thought that I needed to leave my dignity at the door. However, because I happened to be very strong-willed, I was also able to recognize that actually I didn't. I had decided at the beginning of my pregnancy, I'm not going into the hospital. Because if I want to have a natural birth and avoid the epidural, then what I need to do is be in an environment that's not going to cause me to tense up. If I feel like I'm afraid the whole time that I can't say no to anything, that they're just going to do things to me, that is going to cause me more pain, and I'm going to end up with a C-section that I don't want. So I already had that awareness, and I had learned about the fear, tension, pain cycle. I also recognized that I was not very good at standing up for myself back then. When people would come down on me and tell me I had to do something, I was so used to getting in trouble that I crumbled under pressure, and I knew that I would crumble under the pressure. I didn't yet have the right mindset. I didn't have the education to know my rights within the system. I thought what the doctor says is the law, and you have no choice. It wasn't until after I had my baby that I realized that actually I had just been tricked out of my home birth, that I could have gone against what they told me, and I could have had him at home. But because I didn't know my rights, that is how I got tricked into the hospital birth. So recognizing you don't have to fight, beg, or compromise. And so I went into the system, and I'm like, I'm going to hire a midwife, not a doctor, because I don't really like the way that doctors do things. I had gone to my first OB appointment, and they basically just handed me the requisition form for the tests that they expected me to do. And I was too afraid at that moment to say, actually, do I have to do these blood tests? Instead, I just took the form and I was on my way, and I thought, I just have to do this. And then they're also like, oh, well, we're going to be doing a PAP at the next appointment. And I didn't really want to do that either. But again, I thought I had no choice. So this is where I started out. I thought I had no choice. But I remember looking at that piece of paper, saying where I was going to birth, which was going to be the hospital, and thinking about how they were going to push the IV on me, they were going to push vaginal exams on me, they were going to make me birth on my back, they were probably going to suggest the epidural, because the OB had also said, oh, we do our own epidurals here, as if that was a selling point. She hadn't even asked me yet what kind of birth I wanted to have. She had just assumed that I was going to have the straightforward birth with epidural and likely a C-section because, you know, small pelvis. So I kind of knew, especially now as a birth advocate, knowing what that practice is like and talking to moms, that yes, that's exactly what was going to happen. I'm also going to mention at this point that our C-section rate where I happen to live is higher than the national average. It is higher than every other area of my province. And it is almost up to 50% C-sections. It's not okay. So I'm going to let you know, I happen to be in an area where C-sections are being pushed and inductions are being pushed, and we have a lot of midwives, but at the same time, the midwives' hands are tied. So that's why I feel that it's important for you to know that, because if you understand where I'm coming from and who I've been helping and how they have basically been able to navigate this very, very heavily controlled system, then you can see that the empowered birth method really does work in a lot of areas, including one where they basically push everybody into a C-section. Because when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power away from you again. And the empowered birth method is basically going to help you to have that confidence that I did not have back then. But I knew enough about myself to know that I needed to get away from this practice. So I started to look into home birth, and I made some mistakes, and I lay them out inside my book, Your Empowered Birth, in chapter 3, where I talk about the harsh lessons that I learned. So I did make several mistakes here. I decided I was going to go with a midwife practice, and I just typed in the local city and then the midwife practice, and I just went to the first one. I don't suggest you do that. I now have a different approach where it's like you apply to every practice and then you go in and you interview. So go and watch some of my other videos in the Deep Dive Masterclass series on how to basically hire your care provider. I do also have a self-study ebook that comes with your Empowered Birth workshop, so you can go and check that too. The links are inside of the transcript, so make sure that you go and download that transcript. I'm not going to scatter links all through this video or in the description of the video. I put them all in the transcript. They are hyperlinked. So all you need to do is go in and get that PDF. Now, if this video just came out, there may not be as much in it in the transcript as it otherwise will have later. The reason for that is because I immediately put these out so that you have them, and then I add to the transcript later on. And then it goes through a Google Drive, so I can just keep replacing the file as I add more links. If any links are ever broken, like you've maybe watched this and it's been a few years, you can always reach out to me and my team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, and I will happily redirect you to the link that was intended for it so that you know, oh, that's where I was supposed to go. Because you know what? Sometimes people take down their blogs. Sometimes their websites get taken away from them. Sometimes something gets redirected, and I can't catch all of it all the time. But I do have a resource library, and I do update it when I can. And it's on you. If something's broken, reach out to the team. We will fix it for you. I am committed to you having an empowered birth, and I'm committed to you getting all of that information. So I recognized in this whole process that I was just going for a midwife. And in the end, if you follow with my book, I then basically was told that my baby wasn't growing properly and I'd need to go into the hospital to have my baby. And this basically derailed it. But there was a category 5 who was secretly running things. And I did not know that this person was basically in control. I did not know that this person, this doctor, had a hierarchy where he was basically in control. When the other person wasn't there, he was the one that was in control. He was the one that called the shots. And he was the overseeing OB on my case. So when I went and I was at the hospital doing these non-stress tests, intuitively I knew nothing was wrong with my baby. I could have a home birth. But when I spoke to this person, this is when I realized that category 5s existed. He said to me, we can discuss home birth if you make an appointment at my office. In other words, pay me. And my answer would probably still be no, because such and such bad thing could happen. So He had basically said, you need to come into my office so that I can get paid for that consultation. And I'm still going to tell you no. And I'm going to say this in front of your partner who is already scared. And I'm going to basically patriarchy all over this. These people are the category 5s. They do not like to be challenged. In fact, later, Jenny actually encountered the same OB. He's one of the ones that traumatized her. They basically refused to allow the midwife to come to the hospital because he was in charge. And she had also wanted to basically do a different method of induction than what he had proposed. And because of the fact that she had declined the induction method that he wanted to propose on her, he then made her wait. He punished her for that. There are some OBs that have absolutely traumatized women, both in my community and outside of my community. I can't get into all of the stories, but again, if you check the transcript, you will hear a story of a woman who had basically had a forced episiotomy. You will hear a story about a woman who had basically declined a C-section and had the doctor basically say, the woman has decisional capacity, but I have overridden it and I'm giving her a C-section. Yes, these doctors exist. They are category 5. They are a problem. You do not want to hire one, but it can be very difficult to spot them. Don't worry. I've got the map. I'll give it to you. You don't have to worry about it anymore because this is one of the areas of the empowered birth method that I really focus on, especially with my clients, to help them either distance themselves from a category 5 or to help the categories 1 through 4 to be able to stand up to the category 5, because the category 5 may not even be your care provider. They may just happen to be, like this OB, in charge, that the midwife's hands are actually tied, and she has no choice but to report to this OB and do what this OB says, even if it goes against her own integrity. And this is what happened, is that there was one midwife within the practice who had basically seen how I had been gaslit for several weeks, told that my baby was too small, told that my baby was not going to tolerate labor well, constantly going for these non-stress tests so that the hospital could continue to basically reinforce the idea that I would need more assistance and basically groom me into compliance. I don't get groomed into compliance very easily. So the fact is that I could see what was going on and I was resisting, but I still thought that I couldn't have a home birth. And at 39 weeks, my midwife finally reached out to me. This was another one in the practice who was 2 years away from retirement, a lot older than all of the other midwives, and she was just done. She had seen the writing on the wall, and she's like, that's it. I'm telling her the truth. And she told me that there was nothing wrong with my baby and that I could have a home birth. But I was 39 weeks, and I'd already had my confidence chipped away at. So I didn't trust in what she was saying. I thought I still had to have a hospital birth. Not to mention the category 5 OB had been terrifying my partner about all the things that could go wrong if we went ahead and had a home birth. And that was his first baby, and he was scared. So he had basically said, I'm not comfortable with the home birth now. Maybe we should just go to the hospital. And now I had no support. So again, you're going to want to check out some of my other videos when I talk about partner support, because you need your partner on board, especially if you're going to go against a category 5 care provider, either somebody you hired or somebody that's on call or secretly running the show. You need to understand this. Okay, so now we're going to go into how this is a trap, because you understand, basically, my birth got derailed. I've taken my power back. You can go and read your Empowered Birth for the full story. It's in chapters 3 and 4. But what you need to know is, how does this undermine your confidence? Well, if you have a category 5 care provider, what they're basically doing at every single appointment is they are reinforcing the idea that you know nothing, that they are all knowing, that they are the one that is standing between you and complete disaster. They are grooming you for compliance by pushing these vaginal exams that you really don't need, pushing tests and not explaining to you why this test is even necessary. When you question them, they basically say, well, you don't want a dead baby, and they automatically jump to the worst case scenarios instead of recognizing that that is not informed consent. You can go and check out some of my other videos to know more about informed consent. And I also suggest that you go check out Birth Monopoly by Kristen Pascucci. She has a blog and she has articles such as You're Not Allowed to Not Allow Me, and basically tells you about obstetric violence and informed consent. This is basically what she was put on this earth to do. She's amazing at it. And when she started posting those articles way back in 2014, when I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me. Somebody undermined my confidence and they kept chipping away at me until I suddenly started to see myself not in the role of birth consumer anymore, but in good compliant patient who was now looking at the medical system to save me. Basically, I gave my power away. And the system is designed for that because you have to understand how it originated was women who didn't have a lot of agency. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. We'll take care of everything. You just do what the doctor tells you and it'll be fine. But you know what? You actually deserve to have true informed consent. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but informed consent wasn't even a thing until the 90s for pregnancy. In the realm of other areas of medicine, it was informed consent in the 1970s. So when medicine first came into being and when they started to take people from their homes to birth and in the hospital, there was no such thing as informed consent. They just did things to you. And you just internalize that as, I guess that's what has to happen. A healthy baby is all that matters. Generations of women, even women still alive today, have been traumatized. And they don't even know it. They don't often recognize the traumas that were done to them that didn't have to happen. They've just internalized it. They've accepted it. And then they're also putting that same fear onto you in our birth culture. You can go and check out the Reset Your Mindset for Empowered Birth mini challenge if you really want to understand at a deeper level. But the fact is that we have had generations and generations of moms who had no autonomy in their births. And the ones that fought for autonomy were often cut anyway, and then they went on to become midwives. Or they went on to become doulas. They went on to become speakers. They're the ones speaking out about it. Hensi Goer herself, she had that experience. She talks about it inside the Thinking Woman's Guide to a Better Birth and within her Take Charge of Birth series of where she's coming from. She trusted the doctor, and then she realized that she didn't have as much agency as she thought. And things were done to her that didn't need to be done. And now she speaks out about that. So you need to recognize where a lot of birth workers come from, especially those that are speaking out against medical interventions. It's because we ourselves were traumatized and we've had to work through that. But there's also those in the system that are traumatized and don't know it. And they think that that's the only way things have to go. They internalize it and then they practice the same thing out there. So they're undermining your confidence, either because they're category 5 and they want to control you and they want you to follow a certain path. And how dare you question them? You're just a mom. How dare you think that you can have a natural birth? I'll show you. I'm going to give you a really, really painful vaginal exam. I'm going to strip your membranes. And I'm going to say, if you can't handle that, you can't handle a natural birth. Yeah, that was actually something that happened. So understanding, they undermine your confidence by saying, oh, well, if you can't handle this, you can't handle natural birth. I don't know, you've got a small pelvis, you probably won't be able to birth this baby. I don't know, if you go past a certain number of days, past your due date, as an older mom, all these disasters can happen. I don't know, you're high risk, I don't think you can do this. They're undermining your confidence. So then you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this now. I came in, I felt really good about this appointment and advocating for myself and bringing in my birth plan. And now this doctor is telling me I can't. And I've been trained to basically think that the medical system knows more than me because they have all the degrees. Yeah, they're undermining your confidence. But I'm going to help you out of that, so don't worry about it, okay? The other thing is, of course, the unnecessary interventions. This starts small. It starts when they tell you about your due date. It continues when you get close to your due date and they want to do those vaginal exams. Go check out one of my other videos about natural birth traps and vaginal exams. Then they will try to strip your membranes. That doesn't work. They're going to suggest induction. That doesn't work. They're going to suggest that you have the C-section. And now you have a cascade of interventions. You may say you don't want the IV. They will ask you to compromise and get the saline lock so that they have an open vein. There's going to be a natural birth trap on that as well, deeper into this series, so keep watching. They're going to say you need to have continuous fetal monitoring. They're going to say that you need to not have food or drink because you could aspirate. They're going to say you need to birth on the back because that is the best position for them to be able to see what's going on. They will undermine that confidence by basically pushing these medical interventions. If they're category 5, it's because they want you to birth by a certain timeline so they can schedule you. And if you have a C-section, oh, they get more money. Yeah, I said it. If, however, they are not category 5, but there may be categories 1 through 4, there are policies that they have to follow. There are restrictions that they have to follow. There are things that they basically are expected to do, even though they know that it is not proper for a physiological birth. But that's what they've been taught. So you need to recognize that. And finally, how this sabotages your physiological process. Well, if they're pushing interventions and they're undermining your confidence, you can't birth if you're in fear. If you're afraid, you're tensing up. You tense up, your body is going to say, oh, there's a tiger in the area. We're going to slow down contractions or we're going to stop contractions and this birth isn't happening. Or they are pushing on the outside. They tell you that they need to break your waters. They break your waters and disaster happens. They tell you they need to induce you. They run Pitocin and disaster happens. Thank goodness we were able to save you and your baby. Yeah, they caused it. If you want to know more about that, I suggest you check out Rachel Reed's book, Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage, because she goes deep into the rights of protection. I don't have enough time to get into that in this one masterclass. I have also created something within the self-study path. It is called Your Empowered Birth Workshop, and you can go through that. Okay, so now we're going to briefly go into the categories 1 through 5, okay? Because I do have the birth advocacy report. You can get it either inside of your Empowered Birth Toolkit by subscribing to the Empowered Birth newsletter, or what you can do is you can reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Either myself or one of my team members will reach out to you and give you that report. Or if you want to get it through self-study, you can get it through your Empowered Birth Workshop. It does come through the email. So this report is incredibly important when it comes to understanding the categories 1 through 5 that your care provider could fall into. Category 1, they're afraid of something going wrong. If they haven't seen physiological birth and they're practicing in a heavy medical institution, then all they ever see is pathology. So they are traumatized by the things that they have seen. And yes, there are some devastating stories. They don't want to lose moms and babies. And the reality is that often they can lose moms and babies, and it's nobody's fault. But if you happen to have a midwife and you're having a home birth, this then is another layer that you need to understand. And I did recently do a video as well on my actual Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, it's more of a free flow of my information. But I've talked about this before. The fact is that if your midwife attends your home birth and something happens to your baby that could not possibly have been prevented, she's still going to get charged with manslaughter. That's the reality. So she's really afraid of something bad happening. And the care provider that's afraid of something bad happening is going to be practicing a lot more precautionary. And then they're also afraid, category 2, of going outside that box. They were used to doing something one way. It seemed to work. It seemed to mitigate risks of those catastrophic outcomes that they're trying to avoid. It may still derail your natural birth plan, but at least it's not that catastrophic outcome that they're trying to avoid. They are afraid to practice outside the box. They're afraid to do something different. Because what if scary number 1 happens? So then you also have another layer. Number 3, fear of getting in trouble. Well, if they basically ignore that protocol, they're going to get written up. There's going to be people that are towing the line in the system if they're being watched. They're going to be like, hey, wait a minute, so-and-so is not doing this, and they're going to get in trouble. Your midwife is going to get in more trouble than your doctor, but your doctor still has that fear that they're going to be seen a certain way by their colleagues and they're going to be discredited, even if they're right to do it. Even if they're right to support you in your physiological birth, they're still dealing with a culture of fear, where category 5s are at the top, and we will get into that. So then we also have number 4, fear of being the ringleader. So if it seems like they put you up to the idea, if they say something and you go against the policy based on what they say, that then comes back down on them. Their colleagues then also, if they happen to feel the same way, but they see that your midwife or doctor is being punished severely, they are less likely to speak up. Now, that ties into category 5. The ones that are usually running the show, the ones that don't want the system to change. They don't care about your natural birth. They would rather you have a C-section. There's more money in a C-section. There's more control in a C-section. And they will absolutely 100% gaslight you and cause problems within the system itself. It's called horizontal violence. Again, check the transcript and you're going to find an article on Fish Don't See Water, and also some other articles on basically understanding this horizontal violence concept. Kristen Pascucci has addressed this as well. So understanding that obstetric violence is not just one main thing. There's lots of different pieces to that. Again, check the transcript if you want to know those pieces. I don't own that pyramid that Kristen Pascucci has created on all of the different layers. That is hers. So go and check that out. Go follow her. If you feel called to go and get her course, then do so as well. That is supplementary education that you can also apply within the Empowered Birth Method. And then if you also wanted additional help while going through that course, you could come to me and you could come to my team and we could support you and add extra resources to that. Because I'm not here to basically say my method is perfect and you can't have anything else outside of that. Information is free. I only charge for access to me, and it's going to take all of us. So recognizing the category 5s are running things. They are the ones that are most likely to step on necks in order to get to positions of power. Because positions of power, prestige, and authority are what drive category 5s. They need it. They crave it. They want to be seen as the white coat saviors. And anybody who dares to question that, that is when the mask slips off. And that sweet, nice, kind OB or that kind midwife, because, I mean, there could be some category 5s in midwifery. You never know. There's category 5 nurses. I've seen them too. They basically want to be seen as the hero. And if you question their authority, that is when they feel threatened because it's attacking their ego. It's attacking their self-image of how they view themselves as the be-all, end-all authority. Because I said so. I'm the one who went to school. Don't confuse your Google degree with my medical degree. They're the ones that need to get out of maternity care because they are the ones that are traumatizing moms. They are the ones that are causing problems for their colleagues. They are the ones that are also feeding all of the information to the insurance companies saying, oh, things are super dangerous. And we need to get them out. So how do we get them out? The empowered birth method is how we get them out. Okay, so you now know about the category 5s. You know how they can derail your birth plans. You know a little bit about my story and how if I hadn't been who I am, I could have ended up falling into the trap of the category 5 OB and had that C-section that they were really, really trying to push on me. But because of who I was able to see it because I happen to have a background in psychology. And that's really where the empowered birth method comes through, because I was able to see the psychology of what the medical system is dealing with, what the medical professionals are dealing with, and also what us as moms are dealing with, so that we can basically reach our goal of having a true natural birth without having to fight, beg, or compromise, and without alienating the system. Because, you know, midwives didn't get into this to traumatize you, and the truly good care providers didn't get in this to traumatize you. The category 5s, I'm not going to lie. There's probably some in there that really just got into it because they like to control women. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The kinds of category 5s, the degrees of them, can be absolutely horrible human beings. The worst. They're usually also the ones that know how to manipulate. And that is why the empowered birth method is so important. So you need the right mindset, first of all. You need to get past your fear, okay? You need to see yourself as the birth consumer. You are not hiring somebody who's going to take over your birth. You are hiring somebody who basically is like a contractor that you have basically called in so that you can do a project yourself. You're doing the project, but you just need a little bit of guidance. You just want somebody to basically spot any challenges before they become big, big problems. To be like, hey, I noticed this, and it can usually lead to this. It might be nothing, and here's some options to basically protect you from that. But make no mistake, you could do this project yourself. You are designed to birth. If you want to call in medical support, you are within your rights to do that, and you don't need it. So you need to get out of that mindset, first of all, that you cannot birth a baby without a medical professional. You can. Your body is going to grow a baby and going to birth a baby, and it's a physiological process that sometimes needs some medical support. When your intuition tells you something seems off, I kind of would like some extra help here, you call in that help. But you don't need somebody to micromanage you to the point where they think that you're just a disaster waiting to happen. That is the wrong energy. So you need to come at this thinking in the terms of, I am the birth consumer. I have my plan. I've created my vision. This is what I'm moving towards. Now I'm going to find the person who can support me in that. So you have your vision and you get past your fears. Any of those what-if scenarios. I have trainings on this. So you just go into the playlist and you check out the Reset Your Mindset for Empowered Birth Mini Challenge. You can also go through my book, Your Empowered Birth. There are actual questions to ask on fear, both in chapters 6 and 7 of the book, in the right mindset. And in addition to that, there is an entire module on getting past fear inside of your Empowered Birth workshop. This is an important component to have, especially when dealing with category 5s. Category 5s love to push buttons. They will push buttons that others wouldn't dare push because it is so unethical and so mean, but they'll do it. If they need to, they will do it. They will be mean. They will be ruthless. They will tell you you're a bad mom. They will tell you that they're going to call CPS on you. They will tell you that they're going to drop you from care and good luck trying to find a care provider and your baby's going to die. They are the worst. There are also those in categories 1 through 4, where if they're saying something like, I don't think that that's a good idea, it's not safe, what they're really saying is, I don't really feel the confidence of being able to do it this way because I've never done it this way. And I have a lot of fears that are coming up. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. I'm afraid of being seen as the ringleader. I can't really tell you about this thing that I know about because if I do, it's going to come back on me. I'm afraid that something's going to go wrong and we're going to get sued or this disaster is going to happen. I'm afraid of practicing outside the box because I don't really have skill in this area. Those are the things they're actually dealing with. They're not really saying that you could never do it, it's impossible, but they can't say that. So you need to be able to be strong enough in your mindset of, I can birth this baby with or without their help, to be able to then notice when your care provider is afraid and what category they're falling into. This is why the birth advocacy report is so important, because it's allowing you to see those loopholes within the system. The other thing is that you need that right education. As I said, go check out Birth Monopoly. That is where I would suggest you find out more about your rights and find out about obstetric violence and find out about horizontal violence, because this is so ingrained in our culture that often people think that it's just the way birth is. And I call that positive birth trauma culture, because if somebody is doing something like forcing a vaginal exam, the outside world is like, well, I mean, the mother probably needed that because if she didn't, the baby would die. So sometimes you have to just take control. And, you know, they just make excuses for it. And there are no excuses for it. There really aren't. So go and check out Birth Monopoly if you want to know the right education on that. You also need to understand about physiological birth. Because how are you going to know that your care provider actually supports physiological birth, the true natural birth, if you don't even know what that looks like? They could say that they support true natural birth. They could say they support natural birth. But if they are then doing things in their practice that go against natural birth, you need to know that. Then you also need the right environment. If you really don't feel safe in the hospital, then you probably don't want to birth in the hospital. You can still call in backup. There are ways around that. The empowered birth method, I teach that. I teach that even more inside my program, Your Empowered Birth Academy. And if you got on a 15-minute call with me, I would very easily be able to see where you're at in your location, what you're dealing with in the dynamic, and be like, that's the path you're going to need to take. And you can take that path or find other ways around it. And at the same time, you need to know. You need to know what I can see out there. This is why I'm giving you that education. This is why I'm giving you that information. Information is free. I only charge for access to me. Now, this goes without saying, since you're hiring the right care provider, you need the right facilitators. But even deeper than that, talk to doulas. Don't talk to the moms in the mom groups and ask them in the local mom groups or community, hey, what doctor do you recommend? What midwife do you recommend? Because you know what? As somebody in the communities, I basically see these moms recommending that category 5 doctor that I absolutely would not recommend for a natural birth. And I'm diplomatic about it. I'm like, oh yes, he is very good at doing C-sections. He does a lot of them. He also does a lot of inductions. If you want to have an induction, he'd probably be the one to go to for that. Oh yes, he's very big on medical birth, and he does support a lot of moms who have epidurals. But you know, if you're looking for a natural birth, he's probably not the best for that. He's not really familiar with that. So, like, I would suggest you go here instead. Like, basically that. No slander, no libel, just the truth. The fact is, there are doctors out there that are very, very good at C-sections. That's all they do. They do C-sections, and they do more C-sections, and they do inductions, and they also are very good at getting the epidural done. But If you want to have a natural birth with that doctor, they are not the right doctor for you. They're just not. And same with, there's midwives out there. There are midwives that are hands off, and then there's the ones that are more hands on because they're still afraid. They're afraid of something going wrong. They don't trust the process. And that doesn't make them a bad midwife, just makes them not the right midwife for you. And the way to find that out is by talking to doulas. So you need to go out there with your birth plan already figured out. And this is what I did with my second baby. So I'm like, I know I'm already having a home birth. I'm not going back to the hospital. No way. And I'm definitely not hiring any doctors at all. And I don't want to go back to that midwife practice I was at because now I know that it was actually secretly run by OBs, but then the midwives actually branched out and did their own. And I'm like, I need to know what midwives would actually support the kind of birth I want because I don't want anybody touching me. I want to be able to have my home birth. And the only way I'm going into the hospital is if like there is a catastrophic outcome. Nobody is tricking me again. So the first thing I did after peeing on the stick and finding out that I was pregnant with my daughter and being like, yes, was I reached out to my doula that I'd had before. And I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant again. I'm hiring you. We'll talk closer to when we actually need to talk, but I'm looking for the midwives. Tell me all the midwives out here and let's see how they practice. And she's like, well, I don't know specifically which ones would allow the kind of birth you want because you technically want to do a free birth. And I'm like, yes. And I also want the midwife there. And she's like, well, registered midwives in our area have their hands tied in a lot of ways, as you found out as a birth advocate. I'm like, yep, I know that too. She's like, well, if you want to do it, you need to basically interview. So go fill out the intake forms. So I filled out all of the intake forms and I went and interviewed the midwives. And I looked for the one that was least afraid. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for the midwife that would challenge things, that she kind of found the loopholes. And she did. And so I was like, okay, that's the one. Because she branched out and had her own holistic practice so that she'd be able to have more control. So that's what I suggest is that you talk to doulas, you find out what's going on. Don't talk to the moms because a lot of them have been gaslit into thinking that birth had to happen a certain way and they think that their doctor was great. Yeah, they helped you with your C-section. Is that the kind of birth you want to have? No, it's not. So I do have another video, another masterclass on the kinds of people who you don't want to take natural birth advice from. And this ties into number 5, the right support. You need to have people in your corner who are not going to constantly think that you need to go with a doctor over a midwife. And I had family members who were really, really upset with me when I chose a midwife for the second time. They were already upset with me the first time with my first baby, but when I said, I'm going with the midwife again, and this one's even more hands-off and outside of the medical lens than the last one, oh, it was confronting. And you know, if I didn't have that strong mindset, if I wasn't already surrounded by other women who were hiring midwives, and I wasn't in a community of birth workers, so I knew on the inside that actually they knew a lot more than the OBs in our area about natural birth. If I didn't have that right support, it would have all fallen apart. And the only reason why I was able to have the home birth the second time was because my partner happened to be a category 5 in himself. So he would put his foot down if I had pushed back. I know this now, that if I had really pushed back and said, I'm not having a baby in the hospital, he'd say, you don't care about the baby, you only care about yourself, how dare you, you're a terrible mother, and I'm going to leave you, and he would have put all of that because of control. I know this because he's my ex now, right? So I kind of saw that, but in the first place, I didn't see it because he was very sweet. Category 5s are good at hiding until they get challenged. So if you're overly pleasing because you want to be liked, you want to be seen as a good mother, they will hide their true intentions of control. They don't have to use those methods of control. After all, you're already doing what they want. So here's how to get out of that. I'm going to give you another secret, okay? If you don't have a supportive partner for whatever reason, you're still doing this on your own. It's okay. You can still get your empowered birth. You're just going to have to put extra security measures in place to be able to do it. It really helps to have the right care provider and everything else in your pillars of support so that your partner isn't a detriment to you. And I'll talk about that in other videos in the future. But the fact is that if you have that partner who is standing for you, they're not a category 5, and they've gotten past their fear, then they come in as the reinforcement against the category 5 care provider who's trying to push you into intervention. And they can also reinforce your confidence in speaking up to your midwife or your doctor so that if they are categories 1 through 4, they can work through their fear. When you and your partner are a united front, that is when the medical system will shift. If they're truly category 5, well, you've just got the point where their mask has fallen off and everybody sees it. And they can't do anything to you. They can't touch you. Your partner's also got your back, which is amazing. It's also sexy as hell. But the fact is that the category 5 can't hide. Categories 1 through 4 are so inspired by the team that you are with your partner that they then start to feel more confident. And this is what happened with one of my clients, Dee Dee, is that her partner came in as the knight in shining armor, and he basically went against the medical system and said, the reason we almost had an unassisted birth at home after 3 previous C-sections is because we're sick and tired of being gaslit and talked into C-section after C-section. It takes longer to recover. We don't want to do it, and there's no reason for it, and we're not tolerating it. And they made medical history. Now, I do have other videos about this as well, so you can go and check out the castor oil video that I did. I do talk about Dee Dee's story in there because it's actually relevant, and you just need to understand that your partner needs to be able to stand for you because then you feel more confident standing up for yourself. If your partner is afraid, however, you're going to feel afraid to stand up for yourself. And if your partner is a category 5, well, the empowered birth method isn't just for birth. It will help you get out of that situation too. And if you have any need for extra support, I'm here for you. Reach out. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, because this isn't just about birth. We are basically empowering moms for life. So birth is just the first step. And when you have an empowered birth, you'll see the truth. You'll recognize whether your partner will actually step up for you and they were just afraid, or if you need to let that relationship go, break that trauma bond, and set yourself and your children free. Because you cannot thrive with a category 5. And I know I just rhymed, but that's the thing. You cannot thrive with a category 5. So, you now understand with the empowered birth method how you need to apply this in all 5 areas. And now you're probably wondering what other resources that I recommend. Number 1, Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. Rachel Reed goes into the rich history of how we got into this mess in maternity care in the first place. It will help you understand more about categories 1 through 4 and how to basically inspire your care provider to go with a more physiological birth model. You can also tell them to go and read this book. I believe that every single birth worker who is supporting women to have a natural birth needs to read this book. If you're not a category 5, if you didn't come in just for the money and just to traumatize and control women, then you are on the team for empowering moms. You are part of the empowered birth movement. And I want you to read this book and reach out to me, and together we can turn this around. If you're a mom who is passionate about birth, you're part of it too. Don't think that just because you don't have a medical degree or you're not actually serving women, that doesn't mean that you're not important. Because the truth is that I didn't start out with any fancy degrees. I wasn't even a doula. I was just a mom who was fed up with being treated like somebody who didn't know anything. And I went out and I became a rally coordinator. I was sharing other people's stuff. And if reclaiming childbirth as a rite of passage had been around before I became a birth advocate, I would have read this book and I would have seen the truth. So read this book. Second in the list, remember how I said that you need to basically understand that you can give birth to this baby whether or not your care provider is going to support you? The truth is that if you read Home Birth on Your Own Terms by Heather Baker, you will be able to recognize the complications and manage it so that if you did need to go unassisted for whatever reason, or even just do it in the hospital or stay home until the last possible minute, you would have more confidence to manage anything that comes up because Heather Baker lays it out in this book. Another one I recommend is Give Birth Like a Feminist by Millie Hill. And the reason for that, again, is because it's going to help you with your mindset. It's going to help you see all of the ways that the medical system has basically chipped away at our confidence and why it is the way it is and why it's so hard to advocate. Because the truth is that your midwife is so busy trying to catch babies and to basically mitigate what's going on within the medical system, trying to control things. Same with your doctor. They don't have time to fight at the level that we need to do it. And doulas are busy too. Childbirth educators are busy. I'm busy doing my own thing of teaching you. So it's really on you as a mom. You have more time. You can go out there. You can share this stuff in the mom groups. It doesn't take very much to go and drop a link in the mom groups. So back when I was a birth advocate, I found Give Birth Like a Feminist, and I just absolutely fell in love with this book. So I highly recommend that if you're going to go out there and you're going to go speak the empowered birth message and help other moms, then this is the one you want to read. There's several others as well, but for the brevity's sake of this masterclass, because we are kind of getting long, I just want to remind you of the 3 paths to empowered birth. Number 1 is do it yourself. Like, share, subscribe to this channel, pay it forward, pass this on to other moms. Go as deep as you want. The deeper you go with empowering moms, the more treasures you're going to uncover. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, you can do so by either getting one of our self-study courses. You can go and get your Empowered Birth Workshop, or you can even just sign up for the Empowered Birth Toolkit, which is a Google Drive where I put things in and I take things out. You'll get that birth advocacy report in there as well. But, you don't have to subscribe to the newsletter. I usually keep that so that moms who want to go deeper with me, who want to support the Empowered Birth movement, they basically get access to my Empowered Birth Circle, everything else I'm teaching outside of birth. I share resources. And I have themes every single week in these deep dive newsletters. Because again, the deeper you go, the more you uncover. When you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take that power away from you again. Now, if you want more structure, if you really want to get the implementation of the empowered birth method, then I'm going to remind you we also have self-study available. This is completely free. You can either get access through subscribing on the newsletter, or you can reach out to the team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, and we may recommend a self-study course to you in lieu of going and getting on a call with us. Because we want to save those 15-minute sessions for the moms who truly need it, the moms who really need that extra support. So that's why within the self-study path, we have our free path of just go and get the course and you're going through it yourself. If you have any questions, you can ask for another resource. However, we are not going to be getting on any calls with you because that is self-study VIP. So at any time during self-study, though, you can upgrade to self-study VIP. That comes with a complimentary laser coaching call, which is technically what you're paying for. And then we basically take those 15 minutes, look over your homework, and are like, okay, this is where you need to go next. With self-study VIP, you can also send in your homework at points as you're going through the course, and we can go through that, and then we can be like, okay, you need an additional resource, we're going to send that to you. We also look at maybe we need to create something else in addition to this self-study course as a supplement, in which case you've just inspired us with your challenge to be like, okay, this is another piece that we're going to create. And then you'll get access to that for the rest of the public. Because again, path number 3, premium coaching. I don't work with just anyone that comes to me, and neither do my coaching queens. We are very intentional on who we take on because we're all moms. We're all doing our own magic in the world, and we are basically taking that time to help you. And we want to make sure that that time is going to be valued and that we're going to be paid for our time because moms deserve to be paid. Now, here's the thing. With premium coaching, I have group programs available. I have my high-level one-to-one coaching, and I also have the laser coaching, which is, again, you get on a 15-minute call, and we help you with something that you are struggling with. You have to show us, though, that you've done the work. So we're going to ask you if you've taken a self-study class. We're going to ask you if you've read your Empowered Birth. And if you haven't got to that level where we could really help you within 15 minutes, we're not going to waste that call on information. We'll still give you the information. Information is free. You just don't pay for the call. Okay? So understanding that is that premium coaching is not accessible to everyone. We are very intentional on who we take on. You can fill out an intake form if you qualify for a coaching call with us, laser coaching. Because you are already through a self-study VIP, then it's complimentary. If you qualify to be on a paid call, again, we're going to be looking to see if you actually need it or if we can just give you a free resource. Information is free. I only charge for access to me. Okay, so now you know the 3 paths, you know about the Empowered Birth method, and I've told you the story. So now we're going to quickly recap on what we learned. First of all, the reason why you need to be very careful in hiring your care provider is because of these category 5s who are attracted to power and prestige and money within the system. They would love you to just have a C-section. They get paid more if you have a C-section. It's less work for them if you have a C-section. It's less work for them if they're not having to deal with you asking a bunch of questions and just doing what they tell you. Category 5s are technically running things right now as it stands. This is why a lot of care providers who are not Category 5 are afraid of speaking out or going too far in the direction of natural birth because they have those categories of fear. You need to recognize that Category 5s will undermine your confidence, they will absolutely sabotage your natural birth, and they will push medical interventions like they are candy because that's what they want to do. There's also categories 1 through 4 where they may not have seen physiological birth. They don't know how to support it. They haven't seen it. And so they're doing things that they think logically are supposed to protect you. They don't recognize that they're actually sabotaging your natural birth. They have policies that they have to follow. They don't recognize the experience of what that's doing to you. You have to advocate for yourself. There's no way around this. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to get past your fear. If you don't, the categories 1 through 4 cannot practice the way that they really need to. They can't practice in a more holistic way. They can't support you the way you deserve to be supported. The way that the system has been set up, it was set up on the idea of fill beds, empty beds, get moms through the system efficiently. That's what the system was set up for. It was never set up for physiological birth. The sooner you understand that, the sooner you can get out of that old mindset and programming that doctor or midwife knows more than you. Just because you don't have a medical degree attached to your name, or just because you haven't attended a whole bunch of births, does not mean that you don't get to advocate for yourself. It just means that you have more freedom than the system itself. And through the Empowered Birth method, I am committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you work with me or not, because I am also committed to allowing the categories 1 through 4 to rise up and to become the true right facilitators that we need. If you come across a right facilitator and you know how to spot them through the Empowered Birth method, then I would invite you to also let them know what I'm doing here. It's going to take all of us, and I'm here to amplify voices. And if you run into moms and you see that they're dealing with a Category 5 care provider, or you're noticing that it's maybe Categories 1 through 4, I encourage you to send them this video. Pay it forward, like, share, subscribe to this channel, because a drop in the ocean creates ripples, many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. So thank you again for watching. Have a happy, empowered birth journey. Next week, I'm going to be talking about unsupportive family members, so trap number 12, and we'll go deeper into the Category 5s and how they show up within your family dynamic and even with your partner. So stay tuned, because I'm not done. This is the Empowered Birth series, where I go deep into everything you need to know to plan and get your empowered, true, natural birth. Because when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take that power away from you ever again. So thank you again for watching. Whether you're birthing a baby, birthing a business or creative project or movement, or birthing a new version of yourself, Empowering Moms is here for you. Namaste.